Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. The story I'm about to tell you is something I'll never forget. What started as a regular day, spent fixing up my property, ended up spiraling into a nightmare that still haunts me. It was late autumn when it all started. The wind rustled through the trees, their brown leaves scattered across the hillside. I had been working on a part of my land that was rugged, the dirt road running through it almost disappearing in the thick, wild brush. The place was vast, over 50 acres, covered in dense vegetation and wild growth. Even though I had lived here for nearly 20 years, I'd never ventured into this particular area. The mountains around here were known for a spring where deer would drink, but I'd never seen it for myself. My house was in the middle of nowhere, far beyond where the paved roads end and the gravel and mud begin. It's an isolated spot, far from civilization, and I rarely see anyone unless I choose to invite them over, which isn't often. That day, as I finished my work, something strange caught my eye. A flash of orange in the bushes. At first, I thought it was a fallen leaf, but as I got closer, I realized it was much bigger. It was a hunting vest. I called out, "Hey, anyone there?" But there was no answer. I muttered a curse under my breath, wishing I had brought my rifle. I thought maybe a lost hiker had wandered off the trail or some wanderer had gotten lost. But as I called out again, still no response. The wind was picking up, and the first snowflakes began to fall. I could have just walked away, but this was my land. I had to investigate. I cautiously approached the orange vest, peered into the bushes, and froze in my tracks. There, lying motionless, was a body. It was mostly intact, except for the head, completely gone. And where the head should have been, the skin was unnervingly smooth, almost as if the body had never had a head at all. I couldn't believe my eyes. The body looked almost fresh, likely because of the cold. But the skin was unusual. One arm was darker than the other, as if it had been exposed to the sun more, while the other was pale, possibly due to some medical condition. I had no idea how long it had been there, but I knew I couldn't leave it to freeze under the snow. Yet, there were plants growing on my land that the sheriff didn't need to know about, not to mention a few things that I wasn't exactly proud of. After thinking for a moment, I decided to take the body back to my house. I loaded it into my wheelbarrow, hooked it to my ATV, and carefully made my way back home. The snow was starting to fall harder, and I was relieved to make it back before the storm hit full force. Once inside, I hid the body in my cold basement, where I kept my tools and some supplies. It wasn't a place anyone would casually look, and I needed to figure out what to do next. I figured the cold would keep it from decaying too quickly. After a quick shower and some dinner, I sat down to watch the news, trying to forget about the gruesome discovery. But then, I heard something strange. A faint tapping, followed by a dragging noise. My mind raced. Was it just an animal? Maybe a raccoon or a deer? But no, the sound wasn't right. My curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed my shotgun, cautiously approached the basement door, and slowly opened it. The silence was almost suffocating, but as I scanned the darkened room, I saw something chilling. 2 feet. But where was the body? Panic surged through me as I slammed the door shut, retreating back to the living room. The snow was coming down harder now, and I was trapped, isolated, with no one around to help. Hours passed, and the snow continued to pile up outside. As night fell, I tried to calm myself, but then it happened again. The sound of knocking, soft at first, then growing louder and more frantic. My heart pounded in my chest. I slowly approached the door, but something in my gut told me not to open it. The knocking grew stronger, shaking the door with each strike. Desperate, I aimed my shotgun and fired. A loud crash echoed through the house as something tumbled down the stairs. Silence followed. But the knocking didn't stop. It continued, even louder this time. I was trapped. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't stay here any longer. I ran to my ATV, speeding off into the night, the cold air biting my skin. I didn't stop until I hit the main road, feeling a fleeting sense of safety. But even as I reached the city, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still out there, waiting for me. The next day, I heard about what happened to my neighbor, Kevin. His wife had returned home to find him dead, his head torn off. The sheriff didn't have any answers, but I knew deep down that it was connected to the body I found. The thing I saw, it was still out there, and I wasn't safe. That was the last time I set foot in that cabin. I sold it to some guy from the city who tore it down and built a fortress. Maybe it'll keep him safe, but as for me, I'm done with that place. I'll never go back, especially after what happened to Kevin. Every night I think about it, the feeling of something creeping up behind me. I try to shake it off, but deep down, I know it's never truly gone. And now, I can never be alone again.